And welcome into this week's edition of the Citrus Prep Podcast, along with Mike Deem. I'm Brett Knutson. Thanks for tuning in as we steam towards the start, and actually for some it already has started.
Yeah.
The spring sports underway, winter sports starting to come to a close, but the spring teams are practicing. Some have already started playing their games.
Softball games are going on, yeah.
Yeah, and had a couple of games already.
Without some players, because the basketball teams are still involved, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we have one, Alyssa Franklin, wrestling, placed fourth from Citrus High School, placed fourth in the state wrestling meet. Congratulations to her. And then there's a couple of the boys wrestling meets just getting started here, and the finals in the state championship. So we'll start, giving you some information on that coming up here. Drew Hess, we know from Citrus High School, undefeated right now in a 185-pound class. So going to watch him for coming into Brandon, going into the region of doom down there.
Yeah, tough sledding down there, but so far so good. Congratulations to them. As we mentioned, the spring sports getting underway. A couple of softball games already played. I know Citrus and Lecanto girls started things off with a win on the diamond. So ready or not, here they come. And as you mentioned, they're still and of course I want to mention baseball. Flag football as well going on the girls side. That sport has taken off unbelievably. Maybe in some schools to the detriment of softball. There's so many girls out for flag football, but that continues to take off across the state. Going to have state championships again. I mean, there's districts, so that's pretty amazing the way flag football has taken off in this state. And
it's actually fun to watch too. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty quick. 7-on-7,
but it is a ton of fun. And I've said several times. I mean, I remember going back to the halftime of a football game, and I don't remember the year, but Bruce Sheffield was talking to us about them starting flag football in the county. Started off as gender equity type sport to bring up the numbers. Didn't know what kind of numbers they would have come out, hoping that they would have enough to field teams. The first couple of years, you really just played the teams in the county.
Yeah, I was gonna say just three high schools playing each other.
And now there's districts. I believe every school in this county that plays, all three of them, have a varsity and a JV squad.
I think Seven Rivers doesn't have a
yeah, they
flag.
know, but it's grown and tremendous. So we'll be talking about that and get into more of a baseball and softball. Expecting to have solid years on the diamond on the baseball side. I think a lot expected of Citrus High as they move forward, and Seven Rivers Christian as well. Both those teams had nice little runs in the state playoffs last year, and I think the same will be expected of them again this season. So we'll be out doing some stories on that. Check us out on YouTube. That's where the stories go up, and you can check them out there. YouTube is Citrus Preps.
And you'll get a notification when those stories go up, and you can actually just look at it at that point. You don't have to search anything.
Check it out there. Twitter will update you as well, Instagram. So those are all the various platforms you can check us out at. And as we talked about basketball, end of the season now on the girls' side. Christopher girls, look, they had a tremendous year. Ended up having to play Weeki Wachee 4 times. They lost 3 of them. They beat them in the district regular season. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but to me, it was just kind of funny thinking about that game going into last night. Of course, Weeki Wachee knocks off Crystal River in the regional semifinals. Now an Elite 8 appearance for Weeki Wachee, but a coin flip. A coin flip. They were tied, same record. They both beat each other. A coin flip gave Weeki Wachee the home game in the opening round of the state playoffs. That also, because they ended up being the district champ, even though it was tied, they get the home game last night. Would it have made a difference?
Maybe.
That's where Crystal River beat them. They beat them on their own home court. So
that's why you want to win. your
and then I'm not saying that they're when you go through the district schedule and they played all those games and they beat everybody. They just lost to each other. I don't know if there is a better way. I mean, is it better to say that one of them had a better winning percentage, or if you want to go by strength of schedule, who played?
That's going to be tough next year.
That's tough, and we will get into that next year. But still a great year for Coach Charlie Bryant and the Crystal River girls. A couple of girls will move on as seniors, but he's got a lot of underclassmen and juniors who will be back next year. So I think you would expect a similar type season for them. And then we mentioned a little bit last week, Mike, and you just talked about the difference in the playoff format. Well, it's going to be a new district as well, because the reclassification is going to be coming out. And I think you can't always tell 100% with what happened because volleyball has already been released, and we talked about it last week. That district for Crystal River, Citrus, Lecanto has kind of moved up to the north, and they've dropped those teams in Brooksville. So you wonder if you're going to see a similar type thing happen in boys and girls basketball. And remember, you don't have to play those teams in district regular season. There's no regular season district champion. You will have a district tournament. You will be put in that district. You can play those teams if you want. So with that being said, if Crystal River does, move up to a district that's got, say, Vanguard, North Marion, and Dunellen, they look like one of the top teams coming back. And, the way Citrus ended their season,
upswing.
They certainly did. And Lecanto has a lot of experience. They graduated, a couple of meaningful seniors, but they still had a lot of underclassmen who got some meaningful minutes as well. So it'll be interesting. And then on the boys' side as well, that may be a little different. You're going up, maybe seeing a Vanguard in district, a North Marion, which maybe this isn't football, so maybe not quite as talented. So that'll be interesting. We'll let you know as those come out. In the next couple of weeks. We'll find out who those districts are, and then we can pontificate all we want.
If they don't come out, in the meantime between the podcast and you can look at Twitter, or you can go on to YouTube.
Yeah, we'll update it.
Update it from there too.
So and then we'll hopefully track down a couple of, or maybe all three of the ADs, and just kind of talk about what it means.
That might be a good podcast in itself,
because it changes scheduling, makes it more difficult in some instances. I know we've said this before. The Gulf Coast Conference will come back more than likely, right? So you'll see them, those schools back. So you'll still play some of those schools in Brooksville. It just, it won't be in your postseason district. So we'll get all that squared away.
To come back, that's where I played in. That's what I did. So that's cool.
Yeah, and you still
bell bottoms.
You still compete for a conference title. Yeah. And to be honest with you, with the way the postseason is right now, if you win the regular season in your district, it doesn't. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't get you into the playoffs.
No, it just gets you a seeding.
It gets it gets you seeding. Right? So you bring back the Gulf Coast and you play those teams, and those teams aren't all going to be in your district. Maybe there's a little more meaning to it. It adds something a little more because you're playing for something. So I like the way that they're going about that and getting it done. So we'll talk more on that as we get into next season and the classifications, but that is on the way. Boys basketball will
big story.
Continue. How about that ending out at Lecanto last Friday night, as it is a 3-pointer at the buzzer for Crystal River,
Ryan Helmdock,
to knock off their nemesis, and that's what it is. That has been their nemesis. I think it had grown to 14 or 15 straight losses for Crystal River against Nature Coast. I know they weren't thrilled, but it's just kind of the luck of the draw. They drew Nature Coast the very first game, district game of the season, which was way back when. And I think Coach Irvin knew still had some. Yeah, exactly. DeAndre Parker wasn't playing because of injury, and not to say that Nature Coast didn't have some guys too.
Yeah,
but I think they felt as things went along, I think you could see just by the way Crystal River was playing, they would have an opportunity, and they got him. They finally got him, and it gets you a home playoff game, gets kind of a monkey off your back. It gains some confidence now because Nature Coast, the boys have been one of the more talked about, one of the more dominant teams in whatever you want to call it, the North Suncoast area. You go down to Tampa, people know about, what Pisarcik has done with his team and how good they've been. So that gives some confidence to Crystal River.
Great game plan by the coach, bringing that out there and slowing it down a little bit, and then making those threes, because they knew that they took as many threes as Nature Coast did, but they made a more higher percentage of those threes. So trying to do that, and that's what they did at the end. They pulled it out at the end.
Yeah, Coach Irvin, and he talked to us before the season started. He's got a team that likes to run up and down. Mm-hmm. They like to get that score up in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s, but he had to coach against that. If you're going to beat a team,
what I'm saying. That's a great coaching. If you have to change the way you do normally on an average game, and then go into a championship game, you got to change everything that you do. That's a great way to do it.
And I talked to him yesterday, and he mentioned. This is just kind of how the district tournament goes. He said he was more nervous getting ready for the district semifinal game against Hernando. Well, why? Because that's the game that decides if you get in the state tournament. But there still was a lot on the line. I mean, you know, look, I don't think Nature Coast is loving the fact that now they've got to go down to Anclote tomorrow, who's had a heck of a season, has a nice record, while Zephyr Hills comes up here and takes on Crystal River. So that will be interesting. And for Crystal River, we talked about it, a big win over Nature Coast, but you kind of got to turn the page and get ready for what lies ahead, which is a home playoff game. And this is what they had to say as they get ready for the state playoffs. The Crystal River boys basketball team was on the court Tuesday preparing for their Class 6A state playoff game on Thursday against Zephyr Hills. The Pirates will be at home thanks to a little magic in the district championship game last Friday against Nature Coast.
Well, it was a crazy moment for all of us because, well, he hit my teammate Daniel Nesby in the other corner, and he got the shot up. For a second, I thought he was going to make it. I was confident, and then it rimmed out, and Dante got the rebound. So I knew I had to, he couldn't get the shot up, so I just went up in the corner and I spotted up. He hit me, and I made it, and it was crazy.
Yeah, that game was crazy. It was probably one of the craziest endings I've ever had to any game I've ever played, and it couldn't have ended any better.
We were hoping to get a layup out of it with Dante, going to the boards there, but it didn't happen. We had 2 kickouts, and kid just knocked down a shot. You know, it's exciting for our program and our community here at Crystal River.
The job for the Pirates is now to come down off that emotional high and get ready for a Class 6A regional quarterfinal game against Zephyr Hills.
They felt every game they entered this year they were going to win, and that's a changing point of any program. The culture's changed. The kids believe one thing. Well, you know, we won 22 games this year. They felt they should have won 28. So you know, that's just where we're at right now. You know, so they believe. They're believers. It's
just another game. We just got to go out there, play our hardest, and we'll get the win. We just work hard enough.
I know my team, if it's a winner go home, we're going to win. I know these boys out here, they don't want to lose. I know I don't want to lose. I want to keep on going.
And even though the Bulldogs were the district runner-up, Crystal River knows they'll have their hands full.
They're a team that shoots the ball very well at 4 positions, and they're quick and athletic. So keeping them off the boards and contesting threes is probably going to be the biggest factor in this game.
Having home court advantage is pretty much everything. We're 10-1 here on the season, so home court advantage means a lot.
Yeah, we're a pretty confident team. We think we can beat a lot of opponents. Our record's pretty good. With the crowd, being at home with the crowd is going to help us a lot because their support helps us play a lot better, so that's going to be a good factor for us.
And that's why you play those district tournament championship games for the home court. You do get to face a district runner-up. Coach Irvin talked about a couple of years ago when they had to make the trip down to Zephyr Hills, and you know, I mean, it's not like it's a cross-state trip. It's not that long, but it does make a difference. I mean,
a lot of different logistics go along with that.
It should, and I think also too, I think there's a lot to be said. Bus legs are a real thing. You know, you do get tired from sitting. I've seen that and witnessed that before. I think there's also something to just the anxiety of it. I mean, you know, you're sitting there all day at class ready for the game, but you know, you get in your home gym, you have your shoot around, you go eat with your buddies. Otherwise, you're kind of on the bus, and you can listen to whatever you want to, watch whatever you want on your. I think the anxiety, and that wears you out, and you're not ready. I think there's something to that, and you know, I think Coach Irvin realizes that, you know, maybe that was part of the reason they didn't play so good a couple years ago down at Zephyr Hills.
Yeah, that's the thing. Pressure, you know, makes diamonds.
Yeah,
you're either going to succumb to pressure and be coal, or going to be a diamond. So that's why people put them on the line, and you know, that's why there's pressure there. That's why the best athletes will, you know, excel under that pressure. So that's where it is. So driving for an hour may not mean something, but if you're sitting there thinking about the game and everything you got to do, you got to guard this guy, then you may hey, whoa, I got a lot of pressure.
There's that mental anxiety, plus your own gym, your own rims. You understand that the crowd makes a difference. I mean, it'll be loud out there tomorrow night. So best of luck, and you never know. We saw it on the girls' side. Weeki Crystal River 4 times. Maybe we'll see Nature Coast Crystal River for the 4th time. It would be great to see that game at Crystal River again, and imagine the crowd that would be out there for a regional semifinal game that would take place a week from yesterday, next Tuesday. I think Nature Coast is still a very good team. I think they've got a chance to go down there, and that's always the interesting part when you start these state playoffs. Even though that is the district just to the south of us, not a whole lot of crossover in play, so you don't know a ton. I do think Crystal River believes, and rightly so, they're better than Zephyr Hills. And I think they feel like if they play their game, they will beat Zephyr Hills. And I kind of feel the same way about Nature Coast. They go down there and play their game. They're still a very good team. I think they've got a chance to knock off Anclote, and you could see Nature Coast, Crystal River next Tuesday. That would be fun to see.
That'll be great. Then Ryan can get a chance to do it again.
Yeah, interesting to see how that matchup would play out. All of a sudden, you would have Crystal River in their own. And we're getting ahead of ourselves, but you'd have Crystal River in their own gym with a ton of confidence. Nature Coast, maybe for the first time in a long time, questioning a little bit, and that might happen tonight. I mean, they got to go on the road. This is an Anclote team that first time, I think maybe I don't know how long time since they've won a district championship. So they're going to have kind of an odd sort of confidence as Nature Coast walks in there tonight. So on Thursday night. So we'll keep you updated on Thursday as those games take place, and hopefully Crystal River can move on. That would
love
be
to have a home
fantastic
game like that in a county like that. That'd be great.
Oh, that would be huge. So just keep winning for Crystal River. And as Coach Irvin said, this group won 22 in the regular season. They thought they should have won 28 or 29. They think they can beat anybody, and that's what's great about the state playoffs. Get a chance to prove it.
That's right.
You can go out there and
One shot
win.
can make a difference.
You're 3 wins away from Lakeland, and anything can happen. So we shall see.
It's good.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else you want to touch on?
Like I said, spring sports are coming up. Baseball, softball. Kind of go out there and go and look at the teams and watch the teams out there. Tennis is getting started. It's already started a little bit, girls and boys tennis, and then track is right around the corner. So we'll be right there, and that's just leading you into the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just I saw a Twitter remark from a college coach who says when he goes in to talk to high school recruits, one of the first things, grades are the first thing, but is this football player running track?
Exactly.
And if he's not, why not?
Exactly.
He should be. Just sort of one of those.
I'm a firm believer of multi-sport athletes. I think that makes a big difference in your development and how you play, whether it's your focus later on and in one sport. But I think multi-sport athletes have to be. That's what we did when we grew up.
And this is we could talk forever about this.
That's a huge podcast.
But I have never once heard any high school coach of any team, whatever the sport, say, I want my kid to focus, my kids on the team to focus on one sport.
I've never heard that high school coach either. Never.
Which it's and I don't think I don't no and well, even anywhere. I mean, you rarely hear that. I never. Which means this is coming usually from the house where you live. The people that raise you and pay the bills have you playing a single sport year round. And there are a lot of scouts and whether you're talking about football, college coaches coming in, even baseball, they want to see you do some other things. Like I said, there's
that's a whole hour-long podcast.
But there's a lot of coaches that believe in multi-sport, and I know for a fact around here, talking to all the coaches here, they all agree.
They do.
Play as many as you can. There's no reason to specialize. The problem is you look at the specialization in some of the other sports. Like you watch these relief pitchers in Major League Baseball make the money they make. Mom and dad start to, or probably dad starts to see, well, if I can specialize my left-handed kid into being a reliever, here we go. Hence the millions of dollars made with AAU, USSSA, travel ball, and all that kind of stuff. Exactly. Unbelievable. we're talking about baseball spring training underway. The Rays getting ready. I see a lot of the preseason predictions have them close to where they were last year, around the 90 win mark. I think it's fantastic to sort of work through. I mean, there's been a lot of backlash this spring from managers, players, just
on the openers,
railing the Rays on the openers.
You got to be a little bit, outside the box here, and I think that's a great thing that they're doing. They're just trying different things to see what they can do, and maybe it's going against a traditional way that you look at it, but who knows if they start a trend? And I'm hearing inklings of other teams trying it out.
Well, and you even heard the backlash from traditionalists. You should outlaw the shift in baseball. I mean, and then look, I mean, I know the tradition, the shift is completely different than it was when you and I were growing up. But I mean, there was a sort of shift. Remember, if you had a pull left-handed hitter, that left fielder kind of shaded toward. I mean,
it's still a shift.
So what is the shift, and where do you stop it? That's a whole nother.
Games evolve, and that's the way coaches evolve. And
if you're a left-handed pull hitter and they've got everybody on the right side of the infield,
hit the other way,
hit the other way, and all of a sudden the shift isn't there. So, and that's another point. But we'll see what happens with the Rays, and not too far. From the Bucks getting ready to head off to Indianapolis, the combine, where they will pick, who they will pick. I guess maybe do you look back on what Arians and Light and those guys did when they were in Arizona and how they drafted? Do you go back to that?
Well, he already put in. They picked up Andre Ellington,
running back.
So they're looking at having that third down back, which is somebody like Jacuz Rogers is going to have to work for his spot. So I'm sure Arians is going to bring in people that he feels comfortable with. I mean, Ellington's 30 years old. I mean, he's not going to play every down. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to be supplemented on down and distance. And I think Arians is going to bring in people that he wants to field. So, yes, I would think they would go back and look at what Light did and Arians did in their coaching tenors and went together.
And they obviously, when they were drafting in Arizona, a different makeup of the team compared to the Bucks. And, Arians started there with a different set of problems trying to mold Arizona into a winner than he has here. So you would assume, and a lot of the things I've let the experts soak in is defense. Top 5 pick, now. You got, defensive end. They're probably okay at linebacker, right? But DN.
Pass rush is needed. We need pass rush, definitely. I mean, JPP is on the other side of third.
Had a great year, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he should be there. I mean, the issue is they're going to get rid of McCoy. Are they going to get rid of? What
will and should happen?
I mean, I don't think that they're going to get rid of McCoy. I think that's a bad move. I mean, they may take a couple guys and get rid of Deshaun Jackson. I think they might get rid of, and that's $10 million on the cap hit, so they can save that on there. I mean, they got 2 tight ends they can definitely get rid of. They probably won't get O.J. Howard, but they've got they can get rid of 1 tight end, and there's a lot of options there. It'll start falling off here in the next week or two as you see the trade deadlines coming up.
I have a somewhat theory on McCoy. He is very good on an average, below average team when not's expected of him. Not a whole lot's expected of him. Mm-hmm. Now that the expectation, now he's gotten older too, but there's just a lot of things you hear coming out of that locker room sometimes, and I sort of read between the lines, but I just don't know if this guy has got the willingness to do whatever it takes.
I don't think he's that kind of player. I think he is a player that will give you a solid locker room guy, a solid player in the middle.
He says the right things when he needs to say the right things. Yes. But is he a true? I mean, we've seen him and Winston clash a couple times, and I'm not suggesting Jameis Winston is the ultimate leader, and that's the guy that the team should follow. But there's something about McCoy that. And this to me would be their chance. Okay, this is a good time. Yeah, he was the face of the franchise. Yeah. Very solid player at the time when they were struggling. You had to keep him because he was the one guy kept going to the Pro Bowl. But if he really is not the best locker room guy, and you're changing things up with Arians, I don't see him fitting with what Arians is as a personality.
Well, he may bring out the best of him.
That's the other thing. Maybe McCoy's got that.
Hey, and say, look, somebody's got to tell him right up to your face, hey, get your ass in gear. Excuse my French.
He got to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Which they don't hand out scholarships, and he was really good at it. So maybe I could be wrong, and I'd be the first to admit it. If I would just like to see him have that monster year and lead his team to the playoffs on the defensive side. And then I would change his mind.
JPP allowed him to be able to do some things. He's got to have another one. So if you have two outside defensive ends that he can dominate the interior, that's going to pull guys off of him. I think it's going to be something that Arians have to address. I believe Arians will bring out the best of him if they don't get rid of him.
JPP had a great year, but I was expecting McCoy to maybe see a few more dividends pay off from him.
I think because of the other two that came in there, Tua was not hurt. Was hurt the first 3 or 4 games though.
That's another big. What could he be like? Second year, full season?
He was actually on the incline at the end of the year. So that's
maybe besides JPP, their best defensive player at the last 3-4 weeks of the year.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So there's reason for
optimism. It's exciting. I mean, it's going to be an exciting time. Of course, everything gets changed.
Has Arians? Is he too old?
I think that
because we know what the trend is. Everyone wants the McVay, but that Sean Payton has found success. Bill Belichick still.
I feel the opposite. I think you need somebody, especially the way that the team has played. You need somebody that's going to be solid, and mature. And he's got the young people that go off on the offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinator. He's got those people that are in there. They can contribute to that, and they can talk to the players. But he will be the rock that will say, "Hey, this is the way it's going to be, and if you're not going to do it, get the hell out."
Yeah, and one thing, I'm not saying it's the only reason why they didn't succeed under Cutter, but I mean, we saw Cutter go back and forth from I'm calling plays, I'm not calling plays, a focus here, focus. That's the one thing about bringing in a coach that A, is comfortable in his skin, and B, has done it before. Arians knows what takes place on Sundays.
Yep.
He knows what he can and can't do. He knows when he needs to get into the offensive coordinator's ear and say, this is what we're doing, and the defensive coordinator. There's something to be said for that. And, I don't know how to quantify. I don't know if that means that, Dirk Cutter may have lost 2 or 3 games because he was overwhelmed early on. But, as a player, when you see that stuff going on behind the scenes, does my coach really know what's going on all the time?
And I think Arians is so blunt and basically just said so honest and straightforward that'll come across differently than Cutter did. If Cutter is skirting the issues on different players instead of getting it head on, maybe he didn't address McCoy because he didn't want to mess up things. Who knows?
And I think in their own separate ways, they both were players coaches.
Yeah, they were.
The Arizona folks love everything that Arians did, and Cutter to me is not the guy who's going to make you run stadium steps right after.
No,
but he was a pretty good players coach too. But they get it done in different way, and I think part of it is just straight up respect.
Yeah,
and Arians does not have a Super Bowl ring as a head coach, but he's got the respect of one of those kind of guys, I think. So we'll see. That's going to be fun to get into as
I can't wait.
We move on. So we'll end it on that note.
By the way, draft in Nashville this year.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
That has become like the new New Orleans. That is the fun place to be for every sport everywhere. Nashville is it. So we'll keep going on the football talk as we move closer. Spring football in the high school not that far away. Looking forward to that. And again, best of luck to the Crystal River boys basketball team tomorrow night as they host Zephyr Hills. Get on out and support the Pirates as they move on in the state tournament. We'll be back here next week with another edition of the Citrus Preps podcast.